Okay, remember everyone, I'm on like a 30 to 60-second delay, so it's going to be a minute until I see if you guys see me. If you see me, say, I see you. I'm watching YouTube right now to see when I actually pop up here. While you're waiting for me to get my shit together in the delay, you can post Denver sucks in the chat as well. That's perfectly normal, perfectly fine. Is this working? Is this working? You guys can see me? Oh, hooray. That's fantastic. Okay, that's good news. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Uh, yeah, there we go. It's about to be a ton of Denver sucks, and I see you in the chat. Holy cow. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. I'm proficient at this now, but I still have to click around. All right, I want to share it like that. Yeah, that'll do just fine. So I am really glad that I was able to get on and that you guys, at least some of you, are able to see me. Somebody just said I was frozen. Am I frozen? Frozen picture already? I hope not. I was hoping to get here before the solar impacts began, and it does look like I did that. But man, I hope I'm not frozen. Anyway, this is the last hour to, I guess, probably the last 2.5 hours on our star. There's a nice little solar flare that goes off right up here. Let's see if I can zoom in on that actually. I can. How about that? Oh, no. Come on up this way. There we go. The solar flare is going to be right here. It happened in the wake of another flare. You see all these bright arcs that are up here. I don't want to do that. See these bright arcs? They were from a previous solar flare. We have had several more solar flares today, but they have basically been like that. You can take a look. This is the GOES X-ray flux here over the last day. This on the far left panel there. I'll actually make it easier to see. So there's our GOES X-ray flux. If you can see, we've had a couple of M-class solar flares, but they've pretty much all been the same. They either haven't released coronal mass ejections, or due to the position of that sunspot nearing the departing western limb, the CMEs that were produced were relatively well directed, not towards the Earth. Let's see, the protons doing well. And as you can see, KP index is still nominal, which means we have not begun taking the solar wind impacts yet. Let's go ahead and take a look at the solar wind, shall we? You guys recognize this chart. We got the BZ up top, phi angle in blue. In the middle is plasma density in orange and yellow. Second from the bottom is plasma speed of the solar wind, and then we have the plasma temperature here. The only thing I see that's notable right now is right over here. We see the phi angle in blue. It basically was, somewhere right around 330 degrees in terms of the magnetic angle of the solar wind field. And now we are running, right about in the 180 range, right about in the 180 range there. So definitely a phi angle shift. We had been decreasing in solar wind speed for 13 hours, 15 hours. And then at that same time as the phi angle flipped, you can see here in yellow, the solar wind speed starts to climb back up, but now it is declining back again. That actually may be, that might be the first weak CME combining with the sector boundary, the heliospheric current sheet. That might be it. For those just joining, we are going over the space weather right now. It does not appear that the CMEs have struck, or if they have, this is basically nothing in terms of the first impact. As usual, we're going to go over the science. I'm doing the space weather right now. Then we have 2 articles that we have to go over this evening. And after that, we will open it up for questions. So try to hold those questions right now. Feel free to let the teal pairs fly, though, by the way. I see, and thank you to all of you who have been pumping those teal pairs out. That's nice. By the way, my parents are in town right now, and they took all the kids out for dinner, and then they're going to go watch a movie at my parents' hotel. And my kids just love that for some reason. Going to watch a movie at their grandparents' hotel. I don't understand. Like, I have Netflix, I have Amazon. They can watch anything they want here. I have multiple televisions in my home. There's one TV in my parents. Never mind. Okay. But yeah, it looks like truly we are still waiting. Either that or the very first impact was tremendously weak. Either way, the first thing we see is a phi angle flip, pretty well sustained since, right around 2200, and so that's over 2 hours now. And that makes me think that that was not the first CME impact, because it wouldn't have such a well-defined signature on the phi angle there. Okay. So we are still waiting for all 4 impacts. The 3 coronal mass ejections, none of them scary, none of them big. And then at the end of it, probably at some point on Saturday, the coronal whole solar wind stream. So up next, we're going to take a peek at the sunspots here. These are the groups that were doing all of the flaring today. It's basically just been this one. And take a look at where this one's positioned. It's got virtually no chance unless there's like a really powerful wide burst CME. It's going to take more than these little M-class flares to do something like that. They would either need to be very long duration, or we need to get pretty up, into the middle of the X-class range. And so they're just continuing to turn. They're basically losing their risk potential for Earth right now. These ones down here, doesn't really look like there's much going on. Now, speaking of looking like there's not much going on, over here, you don't see much going on. But let me go ahead. You can see that there's something happening there. There's activity, even though when we pull up this, you don't really, let me zoom in a little more. Okay, this is all you can see right now. This was that bright area that we just saw. And you can tell there's a little bit of sunspot complexity there, but it's abnormally shaped, highly irregular. If that one was born not too long ago, like this could be in decay from a previous rotation. If that's not the case, and this is in the midst of growing, we could be right back to watching for solar flares by this weekend. Cool. Anyway, 2 things we want to talk about from the news this last week. First, this is piling on something that we've been mentioning a lot. Most specifically, it was just a few weeks ago that we had the story about how when the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC, shuts down, it will first manifest in the subpolar North Atlantic. And what do we see there? The, quote, inexplicable North Atlantic cold blob, or the warming hole. It's got a couple different names. The point is, where scientists just a couple of weeks ago said this is where you look for anomalous activity to know that the AMOC is shutting down, the ocean heat transport is shutting down. This is what in the movie The Day After Tomorrow was what caused the rapid onset of the super ice age in just 2 or 3 days. Now, that was a little too extreme and definitely too fast, but that's also not inaccurate. When this shuts down, the planet goes from the more temperate, tropical, warm back into cold really quickly. And not only do we see the cold blob anomaly, but here we begin to see its impact on the weather. Now, right now, we are seeing that it is having just localized impacts on the surface winds, the clouds, which are impacting the shortwave forcing, basically how much heat escapes versus how much is trapped. Let me see here. I want to make sure I got everything there. It's affecting surface pressure. Yeah, all of this involves the air-sea interactions, and this is another thing. This is something that climatologists in the mainstream routinely get wrong, and the people banging their heads against the wall. This is one of the things we've been screaming for years, that it's the oceans that control the atmosphere. It's not the other way around. We're not boiling the oceans. We're not acidifying the oceans. Okay? For every one volcano on that we know about on land, for example, there's 20 to 50 submarine volcanoes. That's got way more of a direct injection of chemicals into the ocean than the air-sea interactions, where it wants to be more of a ocean impacting the air than the other way around. Sorry for that. I digress. The point is that we have been talking about the AMOC collapse and exactly what this means, and the fact that in all likelihood, one of the things that we are going to see in this disaster cycle, before the micronova, before the crust unlocks, before the great waves of the tsunamis, you all know, I already think we're going to have the sun take out power. And we're going to basically have to go back to Stone Age or Viking living for at least several years before those main events. Another thing I absolutely expect to happen is this AMOC shutdown is going to really start to impact the climate, especially if once there's another surge release from the Beaufort Gyre. To be honest, I know a lot of you talk about volcanic upticks. What we're expecting with the magnetic excursion here in terms of a volcanic uptick, we've seen nothing yet. I get that there's been a lot more in the news and our access to data. It is exciting. It's really gorgeous to watch them. I watch them too. We haven't really seen the big stuff yet, and that'll only add to what this is going to do. Once this grows and deepens, it's going to really begin to affect first the entire northern hemisphere, and then that bleeds into the southern hemisphere as well. This is one of the main events, and one of the things I have been waiting for. I mean, how long have we been talking about the ocean heat transport shutdown, the AMOC, Gulf Stream, other things like that? We've been waiting quite a long time for them to say, this is what you look for, because the field was all over the place. Some people said, oh, we're going to start to see it manifested in the tropical Atlantic. And some people very strongly it's been a disagreement in the papers going back and forth for quite a while. It was very nice a couple of weeks ago to get that definitive stamp that no, it begins in the subpolar northern Atlantic, exactly where we do see anomalous behavior in the ocean right now, exactly where the Beaufort Gyre is now interrupting the Gulf Stream, and the Greenland ice melt of cold fresh water is directly impacting the ocean there. And then here, we were also waiting to see it begin to affect the atmosphere, because that's how it works, not the other way around. We now have both of those things in the span of a month. First, the confirmation that, yep, this is exactly where the problems will start. We've already seen that the problems have started there. And now we have to say, okay, it's not actually a problem until it starts having the ability to impact the atmosphere, because that's why anybody gives a damn about this in the first place. It's affecting the atmosphere now. I presume we're all good with that. I think I simplified that for like a high school kid in 2025. So you all should be able to handle that just fine. This is the other one. You know darn well we can't go one of these weeks without something about Earth's magnetic field. And given what we had the last 2 weeks, it's almost like, what are you going to give us next? I would say maybe this isn't quite as big of a banger as the what we had the last couple of weeks, but it is also important because, all right, we just recently, over the last several weeks, after having pretty convincingly done so over the last couple of years, in the last several weeks to months, we've pretty much got all of the data to say that this skepticism about Earth's magnetic pole shift, one specific one would be how they were saying, oh, Earth's magnetic field is so much stronger now than it used to be. Well, now we've seen one, not only that that doesn't actually matter. When it's time, it's time. When it starts going, it doesn't matter if it's got this far to drop or this far to drop. When it's time, it's time. And now we've got all of these studies talking about really strong ancient magnetic fields, which completely debunks the entire idea in the first place. Well, if you remember all of that, one of the other, much lesser, mind you, skepticisms about our position and our strong insistence that, hey, Earth's changing magnetic field merits everyone's attention right now. This is a very big deal. Was the idea that the South Atlantic anomaly didn't indicate that anything was happening. It wasn't indicative that we were in the middle of the shift because they had evidence that it had been there thousands of years before and thousands of years before that. And so if it was a more consistent or recurring event, what could it possibly mean for this one? And my argument was always, you see evidence of it in the past, but not persistent, not consistent. It appears and then it doesn't. It appears and then it doesn't. It's not always there. And less than 300 years ago, which is what this paper is talking about, it was not there. My point has been the entire time, yes, it is a recurring thing. So is the West Pacific anomaly for those who have been paying really close attention and have started looking into that one as well. Yes, it is a recurring feature. Yes, you can spot it time and time and time as you go deeper into the sediment and the geology and into the timeline, because it is part of the shift itself. It wasn't there 350 years ago. We weren't really getting ready to go into this just yet. It wasn't there 300 years ago, 285 years ago. Now that we are getting into the shift, it is there again. It is one of the canaries in the coal mine. Could you imagine if one of these cycles we managed to really knock it out the park with prepping and knowledge preservation, and somehow the sun doesn't hit us as hard and big groups of people are able to survive and we're able to get through to this, and we don't have to wait until 11:59 p.m. on the clock to figure out all of this stuff, which is absolutely what modern catastrophism is, by the way. In the context of the disaster cycle, we're figuring all this out at 11:59. Could you imagine if we get back to where we are now technologically within just a few thousand years? What if it doesn't take us 6,000 years to do it, or 12,000 years to do it? What if we can get back there and we can actually be watching for things like the South Atlantic anomaly or the West Pacific anomaly, or maybe there will be different ones and we'll discover them through geologic science when the Earth is oriented in a different place. The point is, what if stuff like this can be 2 centuries warning? What if we knew as much information as we know today, but we also knew we had 2 centuries? And again, the same thing, this whole point about the South Atlantic anomaly existing in the past It's been interesting. We don't disagree on the data. It's just they said it exists in the past, and so therefore it existing now doesn't mean anything. And I said, look closer at the data. It doesn't always exist. It pops up and then it's not there. And then it pops up and then it's not there. When it pops up, we get the pole shift. Anyway, I really hope I'm not like frozen or anything and you guys can actually see me. That'd be really really bad if I was frozen. I'm not frozen, am I? By the way, thank you for all the teal pairs while I'm literally just talking at the screen. Based on these comments, I'm thinking that maybe you guys can't see me. No, I'm not frozen. Cajun Coast Prepper, I'm just seeing that. I hope you're all right. Prayers wherever they're needed. All right, so hey, that was if I'm not frozen, I hope you guys heard everything I just said. Those are actually two kind of important stories. They're nuanced. Like this one about the South Atlantic anomaly, like does this impact your daily life? No. No. It's so nuanced, but it's also like everything, no matter what angle we look at, no, everything tells the same story. And then, to be perfectly honest, this has a much bigger chance of impacting our daily lives. When the ocean heat shutdown finally manifests in more than just a cold blob, when it is expanding and it starts to have a much more drastic impact on the atmosphere, agriculture is screwed, completely screwed. Modern society is pretty much screwed, and winters are going to be really, really bad. Also, a shift like that makes droughts worse, floods worse, all kinds of storms worse, especially blizzards. Yeah, so super fun. You know the kind of stuff that the grand solar minimum people have been talking about for the last decade? That stuff, weather-wise. Anyway, guys, winter tour tickets are they're going pretty fast. I can tell you this, Orlando's going to sell out first. They have more than double the ticket sales of everywhere else. There's only I think 24 tickets left for Orlando. Vegas, there's plenty of room. And yeah, it's going to be great. If you haven't caught what this is, so basically, this is a 4-hour masterclass. The most important information you need to know about the disaster and what's coming. The most important information you need to know about how to survive this. I've done a lot of your thinking for you. I've done a lot of your research for you. A lot of this is going to be a very basic guide of what to do, and for the things that require pragmatic application to your individual situation. The exact places where that is and how you need to go about doing that. Basically, the idea is through knowledge and preparation, get yourself and your children into the next stage of Earth. And of course, this is sort of an appetizer for what the main weekends are going to be at Observer Ranch next season after we come out of winter and it's appropriate to be in Colorado again. We're basically going to be doing a whole 3-day thing on exactly what to look for, exactly what to do. This is exactly what you need to buy, exactly how you need to do this. These are some of the skills you need. Here's how to do some of them. Here's where you can learn how to do others. This is the 4-hour masterclass appetizer, put it that way. And the tickets for this are below. They're below every morning news show. I want to see you guys out there. And yes, I will probably be spending enough time in the cities to have at least one fun night. So if you are the fun night out kind of individual, I ain't dead yet. Other thing, I really got to give it up. Goldobservers.com. Um, they are the primary sponsor for our documentary, which comes out in 1 month. 1 month until the documentary has the premiere, and then it comes out to the rest of the world for free on the internet um, just a few weeks after that. And the reason why it is going to be free for all of you to watch is because of goldobservers.com by Goldco. As you can see, they are still doing their instant match in silver. Uh, right now, gold and silver, first of all, in the last little while, they've been outperforming crypto. They've been outperforming just about everything for quite some time. Compared to the dollar, it's not even close. During the descent, yeah, you're going to be able to use that to barter. And don't forget, gold is the ultimate electromagnetic protector, protection material. Silver will release antimicrobial ions upon contact with blood. And if you know, you know, one of the hugest killers is going to be infection. It's going to be infection. Promise. Steph, yeah, the ticket is expensive, but I'm renting out a pretty sizable area in a pretty sizable hotel in a big metropolitan area. And I'm literally delivering years of hard fought and carefully curated information, details, and not to mention, like, everybody's getting like a survival packet to take home with them. This is a thing. Like, this is a lot of work. A lot of work I've put into it. Just like the book, you know? Anyway, what do you guys say we do? First of all, what do you say I unzoom that? Because that was horrendous. And we go to this. I'm going to be on this side. Okay, fine. I'll be on this side. Whatever. Who cares? All right. What are we doing here? Ben, is the PDF for the book available for purchase? Not yet. We really want to get the all of the pre-orders out first, which we are struggling to do. I know it's taking us forever. We are going as fast as I can. You have no idea how bad my hand hurts from signing and signing and signing and signing and signing. We're going as fast as we can. We are still signing books like you can't imagine. And like, I'm fine, but like, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And Kat's been getting her butt kicked, and Mike and Barb at the ranch are getting their butts kicked because we're all still doing everything else that's required of us every day. I don't know if I'm going to write another book. That's for sure. Yeah. See, if you look at the chat and if you look at the comments in the morning news, there's still people every day saying, hey, just got my book today. Hey, got my book yesterday. They're coming. They're coming. Doing our best. Anyway, let's go ahead. If I see some good questions, I'll try to answer them. Remember, with this many people here, there's no way for me to see them all, let alone answer them all. As with most big channels, best way to get seen and have your question prioritized is with the super chat. Thank you to everybody who super chatted teal pears and other stuff, by the way. I did see them as I was at you like that, and they made me happy. They made me smile. But all right, let's go ahead. Questions about anything. Callie, that was nice. I appreciate that very much. Ben, do you like Utah? We like you. I love Utah. Absolutely. I see a lot of you got my book yesterday and you've chosen to say so right now. That's amazing. Do I think La Nina will be more intense this winter? I don't know. La Nina just It is kind of what it is. Um, I'm not excited for that part of La Nina being here in Colorado. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and like I'm sick of cold and snow. It is what it is. Copper, brass, and lead are the other precious metals. Well, you're not wrong, Hugh. Do you see Earth as a living being? If it is, it's not in the way that we tend to normally think of living beings. Your book got ripped off or lost by the USPS. Will there be any hard copies available after the pre orders? It's very possible we'll have some left over. It won't be a lot. I imagine they're going to go in the first 2 days. Best meds to stockpile? Question mark. I would say that some of that could be general, and outside of that, a lot of it would have to be personal. Not to mention that it is incumbent upon all of us to get off as many medications as humanly possible before this all goes down. Jeff, thank you for the teal pair. All right, here's an interesting question. I'm in Alberta. When calculating my location score, do I use distance from the Atlantic Ocean, the direction of the first tsunamis, or is it the closest ocean to me, Pacific, but only for the slosh back? Fantastic question. So, you will be using the Atlantic. Um, Definitely. The Atlantic or the Gulf of Mexico, because if you're in Alberta, I'm guessing the Gulf's closer. Gulf of America. What the hell's wrong with me? Uh, Gulf of America is probably the one you're going to want to use. The slosh back from the Pacific, it's not going to get over the Rockies. No, it will hit higher, hit harder, but don't forget, there's nothing behind it, so it just crashes, and then a couple miles inland, it's a minor flood. Um, so, yeah, good question though. Is Yellowstone doing something weird? Not that I'm aware of, but it depends on which fearmonger you watch on the internet. Can I live in Kuyu during the catastrophe? I don't think that's up to me, but you could try. How was the expo? Sorry I couldn't make it. The expo was actually pretty good. I really like that space. Um, Even when there was enough people there at a peak time that pretty much every table had somebody at it, um, there was still plenty of room to walk around. It wasn't uncomfortable in there. Uh, the weather last weekend here in Colorado was gorgeous. It was like 70 degrees and sunny. Um, the expo was good. And a lot of people showed up for my talk. It was nice. The microphone went out halfway through it, but we made it work. I ended up just yelling at people from the stage. It was fun. All right. How many people do you think realistically will survive the pole shift? Probably between 50 million and 500 million people. Are you doing an audiobook? I am not. I am not. If somebody wants to train AI on my voice and then do the audiobook, like get the. Here's the thing, audiobook's not going to work, and here's why. Those of you who have the book already know why, and those who have my previous books know why. If you're not looking at the graphics and like the visuals that are on basically every page, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. I like the cool idea though. Whatever, prepper. You have a cool name too, but I don't think it's going to work. Wife paid lots more for a Willie concert to listen to a 90-year-old stone guy, for crap's sake. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Best meds are the ones you use. That is true. Where do you think the next mega quake will be? I honestly haven't been looking at the pre-seismic data since sunspot maximum began. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I was itching to stop doing it. Um, but I don't know. I'm not currently monitoring blood echoes or um, the outgoing long wave radiation. I'm not tracking the pressure cells everywhere. You know, I'm not monitoring total electron content and critical frequency of the F2 layer of the ionosphere every day. You know, and real time data on the magnetic components doesn't even exist. Those are all retrospective studies, which sucks. It's amazing that I was able to forecast 4 or 5 megaquakes during the last sunspot minimum because they really don't give us enough information. Glad I saw you on X, brother. Meraki tribe supports. All right, Vance. Right on. See you in Orlando. My books arrived a few weeks ago. Oh, you must have ordered early. We're down to like the last 3 days of July if you ordered. All right, I can see that I'm behind. I will be scrolling here and I'll catch up, I promise. How soon will what you talked about today affect weather and agriculture? If you're talking about the North Atlantic region, southern Greenland, Iceland, it already is. That was my point. It already is. It's just that for every bit the cold blob grows, the weather effects grow more, and it grows a little more, and the weather effects. So the importance of a couple weeks ago was the confirmation that the cold blob was the bee's knees of this. And the thing we talked about at the beginning of this live show was, and it's starting to touch the atmosphere and do its magic like that. So technically now, but you're really asking how long until it affects more wide scale. Try to remote view it, bro. You'll do just as good a job guessing that way as I would. How do I increase my chances of being helped by extraterrestrials during after the catastrophe? I don't have any idea. If anybody knows, I would keep that to yourself. Deciphering text from previous civilizations gone due to disaster events is difficult. Why do we seem to lose language every 6 to 12,000 years? If your group survives and others, why do we lose the language? You know, have you ever taken a look at the Geneva Bible? If you've ever taken a look at the Geneva Bible, you probably don't even need to ask that question. Language changes so much over time. It's preposterous. It is only like very, very recently that the standardization of language so that it doesn't change has been in place, and it still tries to change. True that. No cap, yo. Nothing you can do about it. Sending big mushy hugs to you, Birdie. I miss you already. It was so nice having you at the ranch. How about those Epstein files? I sure don't have them. Take more LSD. Yeah, because it's just growing on trees out here. Scrolling. What kind of cattle operation do you have? I don't have a cattle operation yet. Right now we have chickens and quail. This was our rookie year, just opening the public part of Observer Ranch, which had to be set up and finalized before we could get into most of the prepper stuff. Now, we have ended up doing some stuff, but in terms of animal husbandry, we're just quail and chicken right now. Did I catch up? Fantastic. It looks like I caught up. Ben, when the kill shot comes, how much notice will Earth have? If it's a combination of small events, 2 days, but we won't be certain that it'll be the big one. If it's something like an X100, it'll be just a couple of hours and we'll all know it's over. So that'll be fun. The geomagnetic excursion related to the COVID shot and bioweapon jab. Yeah, it is. I've gone over that a lot. It's also related to the LGBTQIA rainbow phenomenon, which is spearheaded preposterously strongly by the trans movement for reasons that are not entirely clear. It's the reason why there's satanic symbolism at things like Biden's addresses and the Super Bowl halftime show and the Oscars. It's why there seems to be an attack on traditions and moral values and things that are good and God and other things like that, family. All of these, everything happening in the world right now is connected to this. And yes, I've gone over that a bunch of times. Maybe I'll do that in a video at some point soon. Or maybe somebody wants to invite me onto their podcast to do that. I could do that too. That would be fun. The great noticing that is taking place these days, this is also related. What is the name of the book? Lukester. There has been a way to technologically stop there has to be a way to technologically stop the geographic pole shift. I disagree entirely, and I don't think we should. I don't think we should. Do you think trans women have any kind of physical advantage in sports over cis women? Did you pay me $10 to get my... There's no... Trans women are men. Of course they have a physical advantage. They should never be allowed to compete in biological women's sports. They should not be allowed in their bathrooms or their locker rooms. I will die on that hill. Dimitri, that's a good question. He had mentioned before that I had said that, hey, if we get a bunch of CMEs, coronal hole stream, in a row, that could be what knocks out the grid. Indeed, that's true. But the only reason why we're going to get a geomagnetic storm at all is because there's so many of these. They're all so little and so weak that no, I'm not concerned for that here over the next couple of days. How do you riz all the huzz on X? I don't understand what the fuck you just asked me. Can you go over the colors of the four horses and how they relate to the sun? Yes, the first horse is white, wears a crown. That's the change in color of the sun from the yellow of years ago to the more white now, because of the changing magnetic field, changing not only the lens through which we view light from space, but the amount of that light spectrum that comes through. Next, it will be when the galactic current sheet central point, the actual galactic magnetic reversal, hits the sun. When this happens, two things occur simultaneously. The luminosity begins to dim and the solar wind begins to die down, and that stops the outward push of dust, and that begins to accumulate, further dropping the luminosity that's able to leave the sun. It's already making less light, and now there's dust accumulating in the atmosphere. The sun turns red. The second horse is red and steals the civility of the people, and I can assure you, when we see the red star in the sky, we are going to lose our fucking shit. Third, it deepens to a full black. And when that happens, the Van Allen belts of the sun will be pretty much the only thing we see around the, dark ring there. We're going to basically see the Van Allen belts, but we're going to kind of see it in 2D. So imagine if my head is like the sun, but it's a black sun, we're going to kind of see this thing here. And then as sun rises, it's going to come across the sun like that and then go down. It's going to look like the hands of an old-timey scale on the side of the sun. I'm kicking shit. I'm sure you heard it. But the third horse is black and carries the scales of justice, and that is what the sun is going to look like. It's going to look like the scales are tipping on either side of it. And finally, when the micronova occurs, through all of that dust and plasma, we will once again see that pale yellow hue, but hell follows with him. And that's the micronova. Rabbits are cheaper than cattle. Yes, but they're not as delicious. Yeah, you know what? Mike's gonna make me do rabbits anyway, so just chill. We're gonna get rabbits, okay? He's already told me I don't get a say. Apparently I don't. It's interesting to see how far behind some people are in like the chat. Like somebody just typed the great noticing. Like Remind, you're gonna see me in Florida. That's fantastic. Any tips for reading in my fiance? No, I don't have any tips. Best of luck with that. What happened to the Big Burb? It's in Idaho with Rocky. The Hutchinson effect from the nova will melt metals. This is why we have no artifacts from pre-Younger Dryas. The Hutchinson effect is interesting. I'm not. Do you guys remember watching those Hutchinson videos from like a 2011, 2012? That dude was absolutely bonkers. Genius, but bonkers. Katie Light, for all the teal pairs you've given me, you're getting the biggest hug if I ever see you in person. Whatever, Prepper, thank you for the teal pair too. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to catch up, I promise. What brand of Faraday bags do you recommend? I don't recommend Faraday bags. I recommend plastic and rubber, not Faraday bags. Ben, do you know of other survival communities from observers that we can get in touch with ahead of time? I know of a couple of them, but they don't want to be advertised. I would join solarkillshot.org and find the other observers. That's your best bet. What happened to Beetlejuice? What do you mean, what happened to Beetlejuice? It did what I said it did, and they were all wrong, as usual. It was never going to go supernova. It had a dust production micronova event. That's why it dimmed. Now it's over. I said that when it happened, but of course, I'm just some asshole on the internet. What do I know? So, have I got this right? Prior to the pole shift, we will have already been put back into the Stone Age, meaning survive the battle for cans of beans and then survive the Earth's truffle shuffle. Yeah, Trowhammer, that's exactly what I'm saying. How can I join your group at Observer Ranch? You have to send the ranch an email through observerranch.com and be very clear about what you want to know. But the people who are really making progress in this process are actually showing up at the ranch and seeing it with their own eyes. Have you seen albedo dropping? Also, Polycook 432. I don't know what in the world that means. No, I haven't seen albedo dropping. I debunked that whole albedo has collapsed story from a few months ago, or maybe it was a few weeks ago, but other than that, no. The bucosphere, I don't know what's going on with that. Why do you think horses are used as metaphor for the nova? I don't know. I didn't write it. If you have a time machine, you could go back and ask them. I'm talking about a trans woman who took puberty blockers and then takes cross sex hormones. No. Going through a female puberty. No. Why shouldn't they be able to play in women's sports? Because of their bone density, because of their muscle density, because of the way their brain works, because of their aggressiveness factor, because of how much adrenaline pumps through their blood when they get their heart rate above a certain amount. No to the fuck no. Level Coast. No. It is a mental disorder. They are valid human beings. They don't deserve disrespect or anything. They need help. We have known about gender dysphoria. It has been in the DSM for God knows how long. We just started pretending it wasn't a mental illness when it fucking is. End of story. Brett Weinstein mentioned you on Diary of a CEO podcast. I like Brett. He's a nice guy. He's also a genius. Any advice on when to stop flying on planes? If you can, whenever. I'm not driving around this winter, so I'll be flying to the tour events, but so far the radiation doesn't seem like it's killing people just yet. What's another word for synonym? Okay. When the sun micros after the last horseman, the earth-facing side is going to be burnt to oblivion, right? Will a 20-foot underground bunker be enough? Yes, it would. You only need to be a couple inches to a foot underground. It's mostly ultraviolet light that's going to be released and burning, which means, that'll block it. It's ultraviolet light. It can't get through. The more dangerous it is, the easier it is to block. Radio waves, you have no shot at blocking those, virtually. But who cares? It's a radio wave. Gamma will do some damage. But, a gamma ray shot from my hand to my face might not make it because of all the air particles in between us here. Kind of stuff. Also, if you're watching this, chances are you're not in the part of the world that's going to take the flash. I want to host free documentary watch party. Are you cool with that? You can do that when it comes out publicly. That's totally fine. Paid twice for that. Kinsey, what did you pay twice for? All right, I actually don't see that post anywhere. Native plant goddess, thank you for the teal pair. Would a lead-covered room on all sides preserve an EV, solar equipment, heaters, fridge, etc.? No. While it would block out cosmic rays, lead would attract geomagnetic induction from the solar storm, and the entire room would probably melt, not to mention everything inside would be destroyed via arc discharge lightning, several hundred degrees of temperature inside the room, and then, of course, the melting itself. Arc Barn Farmer, thank you for the teal pair. I appreciate that quite a bit. Oh my goodness, 52 minutes. Florida Food Desert, a banana. I like it. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. Every once in a while, it's nice when somebody just says something nice. Made 3 gallons of French onion soup today. Susie, it's a lot of soup. Tomorrow is potato leek soup. Putting food up on the shelves. Rabbits are really lean. Need extra fat for the rabbits. Live like a Viking. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could feed them some French onion soup and some potato leeks because you're gonna have a bunch of it. Oh, I can hear my little ones. They're home and they're yelling for daddy. I'm going to go down to them very soon. Very soon. All right, let me catch up here. Shiba dog with sparkles in his eyes saying, my hero, Jesus. Birdie, what happened to Space Weather News website? It doesn't update parts of it anymore because the government is shut down and they're not updating those things. I know how to go in and get the most updated data from GOES and from Lockheed Martin and other things like that. But for the basic free websites, it's too complicated to just recode and rewire everything when they're not going to be shut down forever. Appreciate that, Joe. What's the percentage chance of a kill shot flare during solar minimum versus maximum? 3 to 5%. I'm almost caught up. We're almost caught up. Packing and listening. Gran, what's up? I saw you were the first person to drop a teal pair today. I did see that. That was awesome. All right, guys. my kids are home, and so I will see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.